from our floor, and we're currently going to be taking up. We're going to be addressing two topics. The first is to an amendment by Representative House dealing with bicycles, and then the second topic will be further discussion on legal trails and how this committee wants to move forward. But I think first up, like I said, we'll deal with the amendment, and we also have our legislative counsel in the hot seat, Damian Leonard, and maybe you can walk us through Phil's or Representative House's language.
Okay. For the record, my name is Damian Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel, and I'm just going to pull up the language here. Just a moment.
It's on our website too.
Yeah. Right. Almost there with you. It's okay, I already have it open. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that. That's the way my day is going so far. All right, so I'm pulling it up on the screen behind me. All right, so the language will look familiar. So what we would basically be doing is at the end of the motor vehicle bill, we'd be inserting 3 new sections in front of the effective date section. The first one is identical to the language we looked at before, except that it takes out the Idaho stop. So what it says is, an individual operating a bicycle shall follow all traffic control devices and traffic control signals, except that an individual operating a bicycle who's facing a walk signal may make a turn or proceed across the roadway or intersection, but shall yield to any vehicles or pedestrians in the roadway or intersection. So we've taken, this used to be split up into what's known as the Idaho stop before, which is allowing you to proceed cautiously through a red light or a flashing red light or a stop sign, excuse me, if there's no traffic coming. And then this section, which is the walk signal section. And this section is, so in this version, we're just keeping the walk signal section. And then the next section here that we would be adding would be the new section on bicycle control signals. So these are for instances where we're adding the bicycle light separate from the traffic light. And the language is identical to the language we looked at before. Yes, Representative.
Just to clarify, one of the members had asked, this doesn't require anybody to put in these signals. These are just in response to, we already have one signal in the state. Potentially there might be more, and it's just the traffic signal that has a bicycle symbol to tell bicycles when to go and when to, when to slow down and when to stop.
Right. They're becoming more common in particularly in urban or downtown areas throughout the country and in Canada as well. So this is sort of future-proofing our law to address these. And it's the language here is pretty straightforward. Green means go. Yellow means that the green signal is being terminated and the red signal is coming. And then steady red means stop, and that you may make a turn after you determine that that there's no traffic coming. So, and it's very similar to what you'd see for motor vehicles with a red light. The big addition here is that when you are on either side of motor vehicle traffic, you cannot turn across that traffic with the signal. So unless they, yeah, so if you're facing the steady red, you can't proceed cautiously and make that turn if there's traffic that or a line of motor vehicle traffic that's to that side that you'd be turning. If that makes sense. So let's say I've got a red bicycle signal. Normally, I could proceed cautiously onto a two-way road and make a right turn, just like you're right on red for a motor vehicle. In this case, if it's like the intersection here with the bridge that comes onto State Street by the high school, the bike lane actually comes in between the turn lane for traffic and the lane proceeding ahead. If there was a red bicycle signal there, I could not turn across the turn lane of traffic. I would have to come to a full stop and wait for a green before I could proceed. So that's what this says, and it's to prevent conflicting movements. Questions?
I just had a question right in the beginning there, riding on roadways and bicycle paths.
Yes.
Maybe I missed that, but do care riding on the right and then riding two abreast individual. I mean, what's?
Yeah, so this is a really a technical change. So some of the sections here have, or I guess when this language was originally drafted by my predecessor, she had added these headings to the paragraphs to explain what's happening. So it's just a heading to describe what's in the paragraph. The actual law follows.
And so in section 40, you see a few changes, but that's what they are, just sort of technical changes. Except I'll say in 1139B, where it's riding two abreast, which was allowed and will continue to be allowed, it does change bicycles upon a roadway. Instead of may not ride, shall, which I think really makes it really clear that this,
right.
Yeah.
The may not is an old usage, and we've been replacing it where we can because it has created ambiguity. Typically, we say may when it's permissive, but the law, as it's been applied, and if you read that, may not ride means can't ride, but the use of may, we've been pulling it out anywhere where it's not permissive, and so that I would consider that a technical clarification. It's not substantively changing the law. You cannot ride, you're not supposed to ride more than two abreast on a road, obviously. You could, but at that point, the police could, issue a ticket or, so that is a technical clarification. It was actually something the editors caught. I skimmed right over it, and they said, "Are you sure you want a may there?" Actually, no, we don't. So, but yeah, that's an old usage from, I think we were just transitioning away from the may not as an option about 10 or 11 years ago when I was first working in Ledge Council. So it's been a long process, and when statutes don't get revisited for a while, we will find them. Molly?
Yeah, I have a question. So
Representative Burke, I'm sorry.
if you're stopped at a stop sign, there's a car there, you're there, a bicycle, and there's a walk sign for the people on this crosswalk. So are you as a bicyclist allowed to skip around that corner and cross on your bicycle with that walk sign?
Mm-hmm.
But so you're there, you're stopped, it's a stop sign, you're gonna turn briefly on the red, and then you're gonna go right across, and then you're gonna come back and get back on the road. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you can say, you can clear it when if the signal comes on, whether somebody pushes a button, you push a button, or it sometimes automatically comes on. You can clear the intersection with.
Yeah. And I don't see anything in here that says that you have to proceed in the crosswalk. It just says you can proceed across the roadway or intersection in the direction of the signal,
You can just cross over.
but that you have to yield to any pedestrians who are in the intersection. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I think this is something that it will be very legible in the context with when you have at an intersection with drivers and pedestrians and cyclists. It just kind of makes common sense. And I think particularly we heard that really interesting example in Burlington where a gentleman was on his bike and he couldn't pass until the green light for the cars came on, the current law. And the cars were way backed up and were incredibly annoyed because they couldn't see the reason for the delay. So I think this will simplify things. We want to encourage bicycling. It makes sense to think of how everybody in the road uses those intersections and, make it more efficient where we're able to.
Representative White?
So Damon, two questions. First, I just want to clarify, so the word may changed to shall on line 1 and page 2, is that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Line 1 on page 2.
Is that right?
Nope. Sorry, line 17 on page 1. Right up here. Second line of
Okay.
subsection B.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the wrong line. Okay. Second question, section C on page 2,
Mhm.
obedience to traffic control devices, blah, blah, blah. At the very end, bicycle may make a turn or proceed across the roadway or intersection in the direction of the signal, but shall yield the right of way to any vehicles or pedestrians in the roadway or intersection. So my understanding was that a bicyclist had to yield the right of way to pedestrians.
My reading of the vehicles here is that if there's I'll use Montpelier here as an example, the State and Main intersection at rush hour, frequently cars back up through the intersection as the light changes. I think what this is saying is don't be weaving through traffic if there's still traffic in the intersection
Okay.
that has stopped for some reason and hasn't been able to clear the intersection.
Okay, because it brings up a murky area, at least to me, because there are some pedestrian crosswalks that give you a clear white person, the illuminated white person, suggesting it's safe for pedestrians to cross. Yet traffic will still cross through, which I think is a real danger, but that's a whole separate area. But I just want to clarify that we are giving permission to bicycles to cross in pedestrian walkways, and they should not have to be yielding to automobiles that are going to cross a pedestrian crossway if the pedestrian crossway is saying it's safe for pedestrians to walk.
Right. So your first example is actually where we are currently, where you have a green and a pedestrian signal at the same time. The bicyclist is already allowed to move on the green and proceed with traffic, and they act as any other vehicle that's proceeding in that line of traffic.
Mhm.
So cars should not be coming around and cutting in front of them. And in the same way that you wouldn't race around the car in front of you and cut them off at the intersection, everyone should be moving in line there. And again, cars should be yielding to pedestrians in that crosswalk. Same as bicycles would have to. What this is opening up is the instant where you have a delayed green, so the walk goes first, or the walk is separate from the green signal. So I forget what they call the crossing here in Montpelier, where all 4 directions are red because it's an offset intersection, and then pedestrians, and this will allow bicycles to legally move, although they're currently, you'll often see them crossing there anyway. So that's where traffic and pedestrians are moving separately. Currently, if you have a green light anyway, the bicycle can go and proceed straight ahead or yielding to pedestrians on the right turn. do that, or take the left turn yielding to oncoming traffic. And so they act the same way as a motor vehicle when the green is going. If you have that offset walk, this is just letting them get into the intersection. So hopefully they could be visible to vehicles that are about to make that turn as being in the intersection, and you'll have additional safety there because you won't have the bicyclist to the right of the vehicle and both of them entering together or something like that.
Right, but we wouldn't. But again, just clarifying that we would not, a bicyclist using that pedestrian crosswalk
If the
are
bike,
expected to yield to vehicles, vehicles are expected to yield to the bicycle and the pedestrians.
if the bicycle is in the pedestrian crosswalk, say they've dismounted and they're walking in the pedestrian crosswalk, they're the same as a pedestrian. If the bicycle is already in the intersection, the car is expected to yield to them before making the turn. You shouldn't be making a turn through anyone. Vehicle, bicycle.
They wouldn't be allowed to,
Pedestrian.
everybody has to not move, right, when the crosswalk, when the.
So there are places where when you get your crosswalk, it's at the same time as the green signal. And you just move in the direction of traffic, and traffic is expected to yield to folks in the crosswalk.
In Heinsberg, we have a crosswalk to go with the traffic. And so you can go on the crosswalk and you can go with the traffic, and then up there, they'll say no right turn
Right,
with that. So, but they're not all like that.
right. And yeah, so there's a variety here, and what all this should be seen as changing from the current situation is that instance when there is a pedestrian crosswalk signal, but no green light. You still have a red light. Legally, right now, bikes are not supposed to enter the intersection, and this is allowing them to enter the intersection when that pedestrian light turns white. In addition to their current right to enter the intersection with traffic when the green light goes at this point.
Representative,
So you don't have to get off your bike, basically.
That's right. You can ride
Ride
through.
your bike right through it.
Yep. Yeah. So I think the idea here can be summarized as allowing bicycles to do the remount and start and enter the intersection safely in instances where there is a delay between the walk and the green, and then allow traffic to move through there without having to wait for someone to remount or deal with someone who's wobbling on their first couple pedal strokes or something like that. And so it theoretically creates a more streamlined process. Again, I can't say yes or no on these things, but I think the intent of this is to streamline that process at the intersections.
is that the rest, or no?
Nope, there's bicycle control signals we talked about already. And then the last piece here is an education and outreach. So this would have by on or before April 1 of next year, Commissioner of Motor Vehicles and a public safety in consultation with stakeholders representing bicyclists, pedestrians, municipalities, and law enforcement agencies would develop materials to inform vehicle operators, law enforcement, municipalities, and members of the public regarding the laws governing the operation of bicycles on roadways, including at signalized intersections, include both written and graphical materials, explaining permitted bicycle operations and requirements for the operation of motor vehicles in relation to bicycles, including safe passing distance requirements. So this is a little different than the prior language. It leaves out the references to the Idaho stop, and it adds in a reference to operation of motor vehicles in relation to bicycles, including safe passing distances. So it will really be sort of summarizing existing law with the two changes that are made in this bill.
And this was an attempt to, because we did pass the 4-foot last year, but we haven't seen a lot of outreach or anything. So this is, the expectation is that basically, and I think this is the most important of all the pieces, is the sort of education pieces. So drivers and bicyclists know what the rules of the road are, and, can see people following those rules and feel like everybody's respecting the roads.
Representative?
I had a person recently come up to me at an event and said, when are we gonna get this 4-foot passing law? And I said, we already have it, you
Yeah,
know.
we have it. We just need signs.
Should have said, I'll work on it just for you. I'll get it. Did we hear from DMV on this? Are they fine with doing this? I forgot if they actually weighed on this.
No,
Cause
yeah,
I hate to
I
have
don't
something
re-
that they shall do and then. you
I don't
pass them.
remember, well, for all of this, I thought they said they were neutral.
For
So,
the
Yeah,
whole
that was
thing,
my,
okay.
that was
Yeah.
my.
No, as long as that was out there for them, then I'm
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
All right, and then the effective dates update. So because there isn't the Idaho stop piece in this, the effective date is moved up to July 1 of this year. And so this is really just taking the existing effective date section and renumbering it. So the effective date is moved up to this July 1. Outreach materials would be ready next year. So not ahead of the change in the law, but you received some testimony that this is already occurring anyway. Questions?
It's pretty much straightforward.
All right.
Any other questions in the committee about this? I think just reading the tea leaves is, as long as the other section's out, I think then there's more comfortability with this, so, if we just get a show of hands, that are fine with this. I guess, not official, because I don't want to do anything without our chair tomorrow, but we can put this in for.
Okay.
No, I'm just waving my hand.
Okay, yeah.
I forgot to put it down.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can put this in, and like I said, we'll, I think everybody's on board. but-
yeah, I appreciate everyone's
Yeah.
patience on this. People got it, it's a good place.
Yeah, persistence.
Step.
And, yeah, now. The Damien's has, what is there, three different options, and I'm trying to think how to. Move forward, and I guess just the first question. Should we do anything? Is there an appetite to consider? Any of the possibilities? Do we have, is there some appetite to say, hey, we should do something? So, yeah.
Are we talking about?
Any, just.
Legal trails.
Legal
Oh,
trails,
legal
legal
trails.
trails, should we do anything?
You do
Well,
it.
Are you
So-
going up or down?
Yeah, this is, should we do
Not
anything?
what
So,
we'll do,
or-
but
We should put language in or leave it
Should
alone.
we, as opposed to doing nothing, so we should look at, so, okay, so I think we can take the option of doing nothing off the table. And now the question is, of the options, you wanna remind us what those are?
Sure. So there are two sort of basic options, or really three options, and one of them has two sub options. So the first option is doing something along the lines of just including some findings and intent, saying that it's our intent to revisit this in the future after the court case. The second option is to do what passed the Senate. And there are two sub options with that. So the first is what passed the Senate in 488, which is to provide, add in the maintenance language to 19 VSA Chapter 3. And you can either do that effective July 1 or on passage, or you could do that effective at some date in the future in an effort to try to let there be a ruling in the case in case you need to make adjustments to the law. The third option is to essentially pass what passed the Senate, but do it with findings and intent language that explains that it is your intent to clarify the law. Again, you can do that with whatever effective date you choose. So we've talked about some of the potential impacts. You've heard from the parties on their thoughts on where things stand in the case, what the likelihoods are. the concerns about the potential outcomes. And so the question really is, the light option, which is just findings and intent with no statutory change, just the statutory change, or statutory change with findings and intent explaining that it's your intent to clarify the statute.
Thank you for that. And, just to lead off the conversation, we're trying to, I think, thread a needle here where obviously we know there's ongoing litigation. We shouldn't influence that in a sense where we don't want to muddy or unmuddy the waters, however you want to look at it. So I personally am of the mindset of not changing the statute, but giving an intent and a finding of what we feel the law is. And, so the towns will have clarification of what we feel like is already in law. And that is referred to as the light option, but an option nonetheless where, we just do intent in findings, stating that, the towns do, reaffirming that the towns do have the right to maintain homes. I think I'm just trying to find a balance instead of changing the, statute that may or may not have an effect. And this might too, but at least it'll give clearance to the towns that might feel troubled by not having direction. Representative Burke?
Yeah, I'm actually not in favor of that. I'm concerned that that will not give the towns the authority to do the maintenance. And this court case could drag on. And then that means the towns won't get, we can say all we want that this is our intention, but if we don't actually change the statute and put in just the ability for them to do the maintenance, clarify the ability to do the maintenance, then I'm not in favor of that. I feel really strongly that we should go ahead and give them the authority, and the court case is a separate thing. Whatever happens there will happen there, and we can't control that. We can only give our opinion, and we're separate from the court, dependent upon them, and therefore that would be my preference.
Any other thoughts, Representative Lee?
I'm in agreement with Representative Burke. I think that I would like to see language that clarifies the towns or the municipalities have the authority to maintain these legal trails. And I don't know if we need to have intent language regarding that legal trails are the legislature intends that these legal trails are the property of the municipalities. I don't know.
That's not even in question.
Okay, so it's
That's not
just-
a question.
It's just the maintenance.
No,
No, you go.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. So under the heading of do no harm, that's the thing that has been bothering me about if we pass something, will this affect the lawsuit? And I've been asking all sorts of people around this house about all the attorneys. And you know what the answer I get back, which is, well, basically they don't know because it's the court that's going to make that decision. So, it's, and I feel very strongly, as you two do, that the towns need to have the authority and the ability or the authority to be able to maintain these trails. But I don't want any action that we take now to affect that it would go the other way. My sense is that is in the court case, and my sense is that it won't. So I guess I'm sitting here that wanting to make sure that towns have that ability.
Okay, 3-1, I'm keeping score here, all right, let's see how it is. I told you, just kidding, for those 2 people watching. Representative Lee.
I'm in agreement. I would like to see the intent language added, but I would like to see this move forward.
Representative Huff.
Yeah, so, I think with Representative Keiser, there's no indication that if we do this action, it's, puts the court case, against the town anymore or less. And from, the testimony we've had, quite a good amount, I don't think there was any intention of the previous legislature to take away the ability of towns to maintain these. And if that's what they wanted, to take away the right to maintain these legal trails, and if that's what they wanted, they didn't do a very good job of saying that. They didn't say, if that's what they wanted, and that they were trying to do it to maybe eliminate lawsuits against towns and things. They didn't say that at all. So, I don't believe that was their intention. And so I think, I'm good with the language that came over from the Senate. I think it'd be good to put in the intent. Probably isn't actually all that necessary. So for me, just to keep the language the way it is. And then we'll just have to wait, because we don't know what courts will do. But I feel confident that I'm not putting on the previous legislature my own opinion. I think, if they meant to take away that right, they didn't say it. So, and no actions from that point on to today have we seen, anybody say, no, you don't have that ability. So I feel pretty confident we're doing the right thing.
That reminds me, can you walk us through the language that the Senate passed? Or did you do that? Yeah.
I can do
So I don't
that.
think we officially walked through the language as a committee.
Yeah.
So that'd probably be good to go.
Yeah, if we did, it was very quick.
Quick, yeah.
Yeah, and we said, let's get to that later.
Yeah.
All right. So, I think we've still got two more committee members who need to speak on where they stand.
Yeah, nothing, this is just trying to get us moving in a direction. No, absolutely. To deference to Representative McCoy and Walker, this is just trying to get us somewhere, to get a feel. So.
Yeah. So we start off in section 301, the definition section of 19 VSA chapter 3, updating the definitions of legislative body to have the same definition as in municipal law, and then replacing the outdated term of selectmen with select board and defining that to mean the same thing as in municipal law. And then we skip down to the definition of trail. And I have renumbered this slightly from what was in the Senate, because as I was rereading it, I realized that there is one part of the second piece that really should have been its own subdivision. So I've broken that out, but otherwise this is unchanged. So a trail means a public right-of-way that is not a highway and that municipalities have the authority to exclusively or cooperatively maintain, and previously was a designated town highway having the same width as the designated town highway or a lesser width if so designated, or a new public right-of-way that was laid out as a trail by the legislative body for the purpose of providing access to abutting properties or for recreational use. So basically, these are the old class 4 roads, or towns can use eminent domain to claim, lay out a new public right-of-way that would be a trail. And then nothing in this subdivision 8 shall be deemed to independently authorize or the condemnation of land for recreational purposes or to affect the authority of legislative bodies to reasonably regulate the uses of recreational trails. So we're basically, this is calling out that this doesn't change the condemnation law, which is found in, I believe, 19 VSA chapters 5 and 7 or 9. Don't quote me on that. And then the other piece, the reasonable regulation, which is called out later in the title as well. The classification of town highways section, these were technical changes that my colleague Tucker Anderson proposed. It's again updating terms from selectmen to legislative body to reflect what we do in municipal law. So we're not actually changing the town highway law here. Until we get to 5, which is very key, trails shall not be considered considered highways. And now we're ending that sentence there and then saying a municipality shall have the authority to maintain trails, but shall not be responsible for any maintenance, including culverts and bridges. So essentially, it used to say, and the town shall not be responsible for any maintenance, including culverts and bridges. And here we're expressly clarifying or providing that a municipality shall have the authority to maintain trails. So I think it's your intent that this is clarifying the law. Section 303, town highway control. Again, this is a technical change adding in the term legislative body in 2 places in place of selectmen to reflect the existing municipal law. And then on 304, duties of the select board, the referencing to the road commissioner by title instead of with the him or her, and then adding in the new language here saying that they have the authority. So it says the duties of the select board. It shall be the duty and responsibility of the select board to, or acting as a board, it shall have the authority to maintain trails, but shall not be required to maintain trails. And that's it from the Senate language. So we've added 2 references to the maintenance right, 3 references to the right to maintain the trails to clarify that right throughout 19 VSA Chapter 3. And the rest are essentially technical changes.
All right, I think we have at least a direction that we can tell our chair tomorrow is that, obviously that's on the table and we may or may not include the intent language, but I think that should narrow down the discussion for tomorrow at 8:30. We'll vote on it and then we'll, before the floor, we'll end up voting on the whole bill itself. And then that bill will be on to Ways and Means and then appropriations, and most likely will be up at the end of next week. So I thank you. And I guess, we can go at 5.
You don't want to hear from.
What's that? Oh, did you have a
want to
question?
hear from our colleagues?
What's that?
I'm.
Oh, I didn't realize you had your
If you
hand
want to
up.
hear from me, that my
Oh, I didn't-
feeling
No, I
is,
guess they didn't have a chance to.
Yeah.
To
Well,
weigh
we're
in.
still live, so they.
Oh, we are still.
Guys can weigh in.
So I didn't.
yeah, my
I think I
thinking
saw
is,
something. I didn't see their hands up.
my thinking is, I guess I don't have really a preference one way or the other as far as the intent language goes, but I definitely wanna, I definitely want to, move along with the Senate's language. But as far as the tent thing afterwards, I mean, that's up to you guys. I'm game one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of pressure from one of my towns just to the north of me. They have a whole system of trails they're interested in, and they just, whether it has any relation to it or not, because some of these sound like new trails, but they sound like they wanted me to express my opinion in the way I did, so.
That's good. Representative Thomas? I did not see how.
Oh, I didn't have a hand up, I just,
Oh.
but appreciate the chance to
Well,
weigh
I
in.
just thought you hadn't, we all had. had a
Yeah, everyone
chance
else
to-
is sharing, yeah, but I agree with Rep. Casey and others. I mean, I think we certainly should keep the Senate language in. I'm a little more ambivalent about the intent language, but it does strike me that I can't really think of a way that it hurts, and I think it clearly the uncertainty of the intent is what has led us all to spend many weeks on this. So more clarity on intent probably couldn't hurt. It could be beneficial at this point.
Anybody else? Going once.
So the one thing I would say is I think Linda, did you post that language I sent to you? So the language that's posted there has a rough draft of the intent language and findings. We haven't walked through it, and it is just a rough draft. I was asked to just have some language ready for the different options. So if you findings are, that is something that is, these are your findings. So you want to make sure you agree with what I wrote. I wrote out some findings based on the testimony you've heard, but of course these are up for editing and tweaking. And then the intent language I kept very, very simple about clarifying authority based on what I was asked to draft. So if you wouldn't mind looking at that before we meet tomorrow, and if you decide to include this, let me know if you feel that this accurately reflects where you are as a committee and what your intent and findings would be in this case.
So this is the,
It's at it's on pages 4 and 5 of the.
Legal trail language.
yeah, oh, okay, so this is that paragraph 1.2, that's 123,
Yeah,
yeah, pages 1 to 5, and it's on page 4 to 5.
yeah, that's right.
Representative McCoy, or just finishing up the discussion on legal trails. I just wanted to bring you up to speed of where we are. It sort of had a, consideration, should we do anything? Wasn't much support for doing that option. I think the preference, or at least the people that are in here, minus myself, because I just I'm finding, but it seems like the majority of the rest of the people want to move forward in some fashion with what the Senate passed. So nothing's been decided, but that's sort of where the conversation has evolved to. Everything is still open for discussion, and we're gonna meet again here at 8:30 tomorrow. And
Coming just before your journey, once again.
well, no, feel free, weigh in. I just wanted to bring you up to speed where we were. Everybody sort of said their piece. I sort of said that.
Say my piece.
Well,
Did you
yeah,
say your piece?
Yeah,
Okay.
We have
I
to
got-
our piece.
I got thrown off the light.
Okay, well, I will probably too, so we'll just say mine is, I disagree with putting it in. My issue is, it's in a court of law. And I disagreed with having plaintiff and defendant in here when there's a pending lawsuit. I don't think the legislature, the separate branch from judiciary, should have even listened to that. And that's my concern with actually having it in the bill. I think we should let it play out and then deal with it next year. But that's where I am. If you're going to put it in, I think we should put some additional language that says, like, we're revisiting next year or something to that effect. Understand the concerns, but we will revisit or somehow put that in. I don't know. I have a angst about weighing in when there's a pending lawsuit there. Especially us listening to both sides this morning. I was not in here, but I'm thinking, what are we doing? Like, we're the legislature. We're not like the court of law. Now we're listening to their arguments. I mean,
Yeah.
I
That's
absolutely
very
disagree with that.
Yeah.
So,
No, well said, but I think everybody had a chance to sort of weigh in and state their opinions, and like I said, we'll come to a conclusion, but I think we'd have a sense of what direction this train is pulling, and we'll wrap it up tomorrow. So I don't want to jump the gun again. Does anybody else have any questions? I tried to go offline earlier and I was like, hey.